Okay, we're live. So, welcome to another episode of Nansen Unsupervised. This time I've got Ledger from UpOnly and a million other things, including Flip. And then I've also got CMS Intern here, who's like my part-time co-host. So we're going to hear from Ledger about his journey into crypto, podcast as well, and everything that he gets up to, including being on UpOnly. Before we start, if you'd like to start leveling up your crypto and NFT analysis, check out the link in the description. We've got a discount on at the moment. I think it ends in like 5 days, up to 40% off. Make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on. We've got office hours every Wednesday and unsupervised every Friday. And I think that is about it. So, Ledger, how and when did you get into crypto? And how did you become Ledger as well?
Well, good morning to you too.
Good morning.
How and when did I get into crypto? First heard about crypto when Bitcoin was really cheap, and unfortunately didn't buy anything. I just, thought it was obvious that it was a big bubble that was going to pop. Thought Bitcoin was just internet cash, which it was in Roger Ver's vision, especially. But yeah, I went back and hunted one time, my first time ever talking about Bitcoin like publicly, and I tweeted about it when it was $7. I was making fun of Justin Bieber actually, and talking about Bitcoin being on the front page of Hacker News all the time. And it basically immediately broke out from this long-term consolidation the same week that I made that comment. So it went from 7 to infinity. But I finally like had it click for me in early 2017. I had not heard of Ethereum. Didn't really know about the smart contract side of things. So I got all hyped up about ETH because I was working in open source software, came from a web development background, and I was like, there's a blockchain thing where there's like the programmability stuff and you can do more than just send coins back and forth to one another. And I thought that was really cool. So I aped into ETH. I think the first time it was the week it went from, or like the 2 weeks, it went from like $11 to 400 or something in like no time. And I think I bought it like at 100 and then 150 and then 200. I was just like aping whatever Coinbase would let me on a debit card or something until my bank got connected. And eventually, at that point you're hooked, right? Like you put your first couple grand into it and you're like, all right, let's go. I doubled my money. I'm a genius. Like, and I've been hooked ever since. Yeah.
Yeah. So you actually ran a company before, right? So what is the history behind your name, right? You had a company, if you're willing to
Yeah.
unbox
Yeah.
it.
So I ran I did web development, learned, kind of got to know a community the same way I did crypto. I did this in the web space, and specifically it was actually for people that build websites and have like a content management system. So you like log into your site and use it. WordPress is the largest one, and the code's not great. But there's some parallels to Bitcoin here. The code's not great, but like everybody uses it, so it's got this great network effect built in to where it's like, all right, you go to an ad agency or you go to a freelance web developer, and they all know how to get stuff done with WordPress. So it just kind of was carried by its own momentum because it was so widely used. And I got into that space, and I was trying to learn web development, and I kind of learned everything backwards. So like if any web developers are like, oh, I did computer science and I did all this back end stuff, and learned SQL, and then I learned a scripting language, and I was like, how do I make this button blue? And so I went like CSS, HTML, PHP, SQL. Like I went the absolute inverse direction. But I got to know people in that space, and it was like, how do you customize a website? Then how do you build it from scratch? And then how do the internals work? And I ended up getting to know a ton of people that were actually building kind of add-ons to it, so like plugins. And it was a developer. Then all of a sudden, like 100,000 people were using their plugin, and they were like, "Oh, this is taking over my life. How do I make money with it?" And then they started charging for like a pro version, and then the company started growing. And I watched friends of mine who I'd been getting to know, and I was like writing about what I was learning, very similar to the way I shared what I was learning in crypto after that. And eventually, it was like kind of with these people as they were growing from a one-person business to 10 or 20 or 30 or 100-person business. And so I along the way, created a website called Post Status, which is when you write like a blog post or put a piece of content on a website, it's in draft mode and then you publish it. So post status is just the database key on the back end to represent the state of whatever you're publishing. So I called the website post status. And then when I was getting into crypto, I was like, well, what could this be? Well, in crypto, they have a ledger. So it's like the status of the ledger. I'll just call it LedgerStatus because, it's on the chain, right? So like what's going on in this world. And that's how it's not very creative, but it is what it is. So I ran that kind of trade magazine. This was like before everyone and their sister had newsletters that they paid for and whatnot. And like now everybody calls them Substacks. At the time, there's nobody really doing this. I think I was even either at the same time or before Ben Thompson from Stratechery kind of doing this industry newsletter. He just smartly did it for like wealthy tech people with a broad array of interests and is, a multimillionaire doing that. Whereas I did it for like 1,000 nerds that liked WordPress. So I managed a Slack community and wrote about the industry, interviewed people, did podcasts. So that kind of set the tone for content format for what I naturally wanted to do as I got into crypto, like share what I was learning, admit that I'm a freaking noob and trying to figure this stuff out, and then, do some shows and chat. So I did that from 2013. I created that website. I'd been doing full-time web development for a couple of years already. And then 2015, I went full-time on that, and I didn't sell that business actually until early 2021. But I brought on a partner before that because I was deeply distracted by crypto well before 2021.
So when you got into crypto, like, how did you get into actually trading it as well? So earlier you said that you were just like buying it, kind of investing. How did you become this person then that's like, well, I'm guessing you're going to say you're not good at trading or something, but I think people perceive you as good at trading.
I'm not good at trading, but like you always lose most trades, like especially where there's higher risk and reward scenarios. Like your chance of loss is higher, but your chance of upside in crypto is much higher because of the higher volatility in the market typically than like if you're buying, like Dow stocks. That said, going back to the first time I ever bought stocks was in like 8th grade. So my dad, he gave me like $800 and he's like, you can do whatever you want with this as long as it's invested. So I actually created my first brokerage account as an 8th grader. And I remember like when Google went public and I was like, $88 a share is way too expensive for a company that doesn't make anything, and I was like, and I had a little bit of money to throw in it. I just didn't. But I actually created my first trading system when I was probably in 9th grade. And I had these like 5 things on a Post-it note that it had to, like the PE ratio had to be a certain amount, like, and the price had to be a certain amount and the market cap had to be a certain amount. And then it like needed to be a top ranked stock from this website that I would look at. And then funny enough, like the biggest thing I would look at was, are the Bollinger Bands compressed? Which like my dad had taught me. And I was like, that just means it's like a coiled spring that wants to pop. And I don't know if it's going to pop up or down, but like if it met these criteria, I would try to trade it. And then my dad was always impressed because it was like, okay, these things move 8-10% all the time. Like they do that frequently, but they only move like 20 or 30% with like these huge time spans. And I don't have time for that. I'm 17. So I was like, I'm gonna take profits like at these kind of 8 and 10% intervals. And I actually was pretty successful doing that. And I would put my college money or like my high school job money, summer money, college internship money into brokerage accounts, and then I ended up cashing it all out between paying for the end of my college and then like buying my wife's engagement ring and this kind of stuff. So I cashed out all my savings, and that was it, like in 2008. So the market completely crashed after I cashed all that out, and then I started got my first job and started funneling money into my 401k for my new career in early 2009. So I just kind of skipped the 6 months of like the global financial crisis and the market getting wrecked. And my contributions to that 401k is actually what became what I now call my degenerate IRA. Because when I left that company, I forgot about it for like 10 years. And, this small amount of money, probably 10x'd or something over that time, because it was just all in stocks at like the best time of the market. and then I rolled it into a self-managed thing in 2018, and now have done pretty well with that. I actually had a challenge with a buddy of mine named Johnny Moe, and so I have this like goal of what to do with that money, because it's like in a brokerage account. It's not like degenerate. I'm not trading JPEGs with it. So I have this goal of like, if I want to make it to where I could retire just off of that, so I could say I've done it in like real money and not fake internet money. But anyway, so I've traded for a long time. That's not to say I was good at any of it. It's just I just happened to. But I did have this interest in legacy markets at the same time I was getting into crypto.
I would love to see, if one exists, like a 14-year-old ledger, like charting B bands on equities, and like a Google at 88. That's way too high. Like, if someone creates that meme, or if the actual original content exists, that would break crypto Twitter for a day.
That's why when we interviewed John Bollinger, I was like, dude, you're my idol. Like, you were the first technical person I ever knew, you know? I thought it was awesome.
Kevin, does that sound normal to you, to be trading at like 7th grade? To me, that is crazy. I don't know if that's even legal.
CMS intern was in 8th grade just last year, so, you know.
Dude, there are kids. I mean, my brother was like 4 or 5 years below me. So like I got into college, like when I turned 18, that's when I started trading around stuff. And my brother's buddies would be like, oh, what do you think about this stock? I'm like, you're in 8th grade. Like, what's going on here? Now they're all doing great, right? So that was just Ledger. That was Ledger in the past generation, right?
The past generation. God, make me feel older. I actually had a couple of friends in college that had, like, one of my good friends had mowed lawns like all through high school and stuff, and he had like a chunk of change set aside, and it's good life lessons to learn how to do those things. So it's definitely important for me to teach my kids, like, okay, money for play, and then money to set aside, and then what do you do with that money that you set aside? I've long had an interest in that, and I'm thankful to my parents for kind of helping me along to learn that, and saying like, hey, I'm going to give you some money, but like you can't go spend it on like a new baseball glove, you know, like you have to put this into something that might last, and teaching me kind of financial responsibility from a young age. You know, I carried on to do some highly financially irresponsible things in my life, but nevertheless, it's a good foundation.
I think we're going to talk about like later what you kind of diversify into as well. Can I just ask like quickly as well? So I think you said that you had like podcast history before doing UpOnly and everything. So do you want to explain how you got into podcasts, and then how have you become such a like podcast what's it called? Passionate for podcasts? It sounds weird.
I don't know.
It's the voice.
How did I come to the point where every time I find a new interest, I wonder if I can start a podcast about that? Is that what you mean?
Yes, yeah.
It's the accent, dude. People gravitate towards it.
I don't know. I feel like I sound like an idiot. So the earliest podcasts I listened to were when they had like the little iPod minis and stuff, and you could download them. Like, had to sync it up to your computer and download them off iTunes directly. And I used to listen to Dave Ramsey for some like financial stuff. That's some of the content that I remember being first. So I was interested in podcasts back when I was like 18, probably. And when I was traveling a lot, you know, in the car, I can only listen to things where someone's talking. So I would listen to a lot of like shows, or not really talk radio, but more like dialogue driven content, whether it was on like Sirius XM or if it was a podcast. And so I think I was drawn to wanting to do a podcast. But when I was in the web space, when I was learning about this stuff, I was like, well, I just want to have a voice conversation with somebody. So I started a little podcast for our industry, and it was really small, but it was, you know, a tight-knit group and a certain type of person that was interested in it. So I always had like this ability to not know everything, but try to talk to the person that knew about something, and then pull them onto this platform that wasn't big, but it was influential within my world, right? And I loved that, to be able to have the opportunity to speak and try to be real and honest, and bring in someone that knows what they're talking about to share what they've learned, and like help encourage them to open up about that. So I did that starting, I don't know, 2015 or so, like when I went full time with Post Status. And then so I was in kind of digging in on like how to do this better and better, and improve my setup and structure content. But it's always been a similar format where I just hop on and talk and have a conversation with someone. Ran some online conferences and stuff as well, as part of that business. And then when I got into crypto, it felt natural. Like I want to talk about like these charts and stuff that we're all tweeting about all the time. So I asked Josh Olszewicz, actually, Carpe Noctem, and he had a pretty good following, and I'd learned from his YouTube channel. I was like, hey, this total shot in the dark, would you be interested in talking about any of this stuff on a podcast? And he's like, yeah, sure, sounds great. So we started doing that in, I think, November, Top Things, 2017. And we've had that Friday conversation for the last 5 years or whatever. And then UpOnly came from Kobe trying to stream with BitLord, and it was like a Vine video and couldn't see anything. And he was like, I can't figure this out. And, you know, he'd started talking to me some already just because I think I survived a cycle. I was still around. I wasn't like a Trumpian psychopath Pepe avatar, not to like hate on Trumpian psychopath Pepe avatars. It's like half our industry. But he was like this weird, you know, this Alabama guy that doesn't like Donald Trump, that whatever. So I think he had some kind of curious interest in me after several years of surviving in crypto. And I asked him, I was like, hey, can I stream this for you? Because I'm set up. It's like midnight, but I'll get out of bed and do it if you want me to. And that was episode 0 of UpOnly when BitLord came on and like preached about how Doge is going to $1 and how and then Marin came on with no clothes on, just a bed cover over herself, and was like, I don't even know, talking about moons and stuff. And Fluffy Pony came on, and Cousin Crypto came on. It was this ridiculous stream that 7,000 or 8,000 people joined, and then that started kind of the next evolution of my podcasting journey, which was to, in a very disorganized and kind of chaotic way, hop on a stream with Kobe every now and then and chat.
Yeah, Kevin, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think crypto Twitter's broke my brain at this point because, like, anything I hear, I just think of like memes and how, like, it just jumps right to it, and I just see like 14-year-old Ledger trading stocks. That's like the first domino, right? And then post status, and then topping Suzu on UpOnly. Like, the turn of events there is nuts.
Yeah. Ledger, what was that episode like, that very first one? I think I've seen that one multiple times. And luckily we've got Kevin here who writes like all the notes for all of them. So yeah, like what was that first one? Was that anything you expected? BitLord, by the way.
I didn't expect anything. I was in bed and I was like, it was killing me watching Kobe trying to stream this. Like, you know, going on about how ridiculous it was, and like you couldn't see anything. They stopped and started several times. So I know I have my own tech issues sometimes, but I swear it's only with Kobe. It's not anybody else. Like, look at today, perfectly fine. You know, just saying. And so it was. I dragged myself out of bed and tried to be quiet. You know, a couple of rooms away from where my wife and kids were sleeping, and you know, was talking to a couple of TikTokers, the founder of Monero and BitLord. You know, it's like go to this chaotic stream, and it was just fun. And a lot of people participated, and Kobe and I were like, wow, man, people really enjoyed that. What if we just did it again? And, you know, it's very organic in terms of how to do it. It wasn't like we were like, oh, let's create this big brand and all this crap. And, you know, it kind of then turned into, well, what are we going to call it if we keep doing this? And we went through all these terrible iterations, and that's why it makes fun of me for Token Talk all the time. Even though I did say it needs to be called UpOnly, because him and Path were on this like every day just tweeting UpOnly. So it's like, it needs to be called UpOnly, but he was like, I don't know what we do when it's a bear market. The answer is get made fun of a lot. And so we ended up calling it UpOnly, but it took a few episodes before we got to that. So
have you got like someone that was like surprising for you on one of these episodes? And then also, have you got like a favorite episode? You said it was the guy who created Bollinger Bands.
Bollinger Bands, John Bollinger. I like talking to kind of the legacy people like that are not from crypto. And crypto people are interesting, but as we kind of saw, not to belittle the hedge funds of the space, I think there's some really great ones. Like, I always love talking to Dan, but from CMS. Dan comes from a world pre-crypto, you know, like when people basically just show up in crypto, they're they're LARPing too. You know, they just have billions of dollars. So I like talking to people that have been around the block, seen everything, seen the rises and falls of these like fly by night type of folks. And I like seeing survivors, you know, like people that really have been in the trenches and crawled back out again, and are honest about it, right? It's not just like, well, you know, I started, and this is not, I thought Sue and Kyle were fascinating, but it's not, I couldn't have predicted what actually was going on. But it was a kind of a surreal story. Like these guys started with $1 million and somehow in the span became like multi-billionaires, self-funded. It was surreal. And I think looking back on it, it seems like it might be that they were highly leveraging a book that they weren't telling their counterparties that was highly leveraged, you know? And like they probably did that arb trade for GBTC levered like 10x or something, thinking this is low risk, and then when it stopped working, it was probably the first brick out of the building, and eventually it fell. That makes things make a lot more sense, to be honest. And yeah, so I like the guests where it's just like, I don't know, a little more. There's still I loved Bollinger. I loved Mark Cuban was fascinating. Someone that doesn't have to do a thing, and he's like reading how to do Solidity. You know, I think that's amazing. And like going and getting rugged on Titan is just hilarious to me. And then like calling for regulation because he's like, I got freaking rugged on Titan. It's awesome. I love stuff like that. And the opportunity to talk to people like that is pretty incredible to me.
Wasn't it actually Dan from CMS as well, like who influenced you maybe, or like helped you transition right into this real estate, or maybe gave you a push into like diversifying? I want to get Dan on, by the way.
Yeah, you need Dan on.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will.
There's a guy locally named Derek who is also into crypto, and we've done some stuff together, who manages a real estate portfolio here. And so when we first met, it wasn't like I was interested in real estate yet, but as I kind of saw what was going on in the world, as crypto became, like for a long time, crypto was not like 95% of my net worth, but as crypto does well, it becomes more and more a percentage of your actual net worth in life. And then that can get a little scarier when you're an old boomer like me and have a family. So at some point in 2021, I was like, you know, like this is a lot in just crypto. And I want to kind of secure the bag, if you will, to feel like if this all goes to zero, which it nearly did, that I don't lose everything, and that I give myself an opportunity to have financial upside in life outside of crypto. Simultaneously, like I remember Dan funded Flip, or CMS rather, funded Flip in our very first round. And I was super excited about that. And we actually went to Boston and met on Dan's patio. And he was talking about real estate. He was like, yeah, I just had to take some stuff out of crypto and just like put it somewhere else. So I bought this place, and I was like, that's amazing. And you know, he was talking about, I don't care if real estate crashes, because like crypto one bad day is the equivalent of the entire bear market in real estate, you know? And it was just like, put it somewhere else to, you know, satisfy yourself if everything goes down tremendously or you make huge mistakes. Like to have these diversified buckets where you make a giant mistake here, over here, you're still okay. And so that did resonate with me, and I tried to start taking some of those steps myself. And will I have lower upside in crypto long term? Sure, versus being all in. But the chances of me being all out are much lower even if I make like magnificent mistakes in crypto.
Yeah, I think that kind of hits on, and I'm not going to know who to attribute this quote to, but just like one of those things that sticks with you is like concentrate to get wealthy and then diversify to stay wealthy, right? Mm-hmm. Like you need that, take a lot of risk and be right. And then you get this wealth, and then you're sitting there as LedgerStatus talking to Dan, and you're like, you're right. I probably don't want to lose everything. I got a family and kids here. So like, yeah, you start buying trailers and moving dirt around and fit right in.
Buckets business, just buckets of business. Yeah.
You mentioned Ledger as well before, I think, when I asked you, like when we were preparing. So your income, I think you had a take on like you shouldn't take income from trading. Like trading
Yeah.
shouldn't be your sole income, and that's why you try and do like various other things. Do you want to like touch on that and maybe explain why you feel like that's important?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in terms of what do you want to make in a year for your salary, and then what your trading portfolio should be able to accommodate that. I think you probably need $10 million to be able to take, say, $100,000 salary without wrecking your portfolio, because that's 1% of your portfolio that you're paying yourself per year. Otherwise, the return that you require is so high that you're just destroying your potential performance, and you're putting way more stress on yourself because you can't have a down month or quarter, or God forbid, a year. Like if you have, say, $500,000, you want to pay yourself 100. Well, you're down 20% paying yourself. And if you lose money on that year, and say you lose like 50%, well, now you're like down bad, right? Just off the bat. And very few people are situated to trade full time without making a serious impact on their portfolio and performance itself when they're drawing from it. And then they put this massive requirement on what they must gain in order to accommodate their like salary, if you will. So that just applies to so few people. Now you can do it, but I wouldn't want to do that unless I was like, my book was 10 million plus. And I don't think very many people are in that situation. And I've never wanted to even try to rely on my portfolio for income. Now, do I take some out every now and then and put it to the like don't lose it all side? Absolutely. Like, but that's diversification, or just spending it on life. Like, I was fortunate enough to be able to take some and have enough to move into my dream house. Like my dream house isn't like Kobe's dream house. It's like a little more modest, but like that was a big deal for me, and that's improving your life. So yeah, use it for those things, but don't pay your salary with it. Get a freaking job. Like you're probably just over trading anyway. Like if you can't look at the markets once a day and get the primary information you need, as long as you know the assets you're in, like just say you're trading ETH, BTC, you don't have to look at the charts as much as you do. I look at the charts all the time. I always know the price, but I really don't have to. I could probably make just as good of long-term decisions looking at weekly charts, responding to like periodic information and letting the noise work through. Now, does that mean you're going to catch like every hot coin and every NFT collection that's fun to ape into and get this like 100x upside? No, you're not going to get that. But can you make these long-term decisions and kind of generally know be in or be out with being with the trend? Then yeah, and that's going to be most people are going to be much more successful doing that. And then taking a smaller portion, like say 5% of your portfolio. When I got into DeFi, I did the same thing, right? Like I started in DeFi with so little money, and then DeFi summer happened, and I don't know, it was a lot, like several hundred X my like DeFi tiny portfolio. And I was like, wow, I should have done that with my whole portfolio, but I didn't, because again, I could have like gotten absolutely wrecked and lost it all. And I was like trying to figure out what is this on-chain stuff? Like, look at this Nansen thing. Like it's got this information, the shout out, like very incredible data set, and all this stuff is on the chain. There's a history of it, and it changed the game for me. But I wasn't going to throw 100% of my net worth at it, not knowing anything. And then I end up putting it all in freaking yams, and I found out what a negative rebase is, like much better to put, whatever's more modest for you, like a long option kind of, and go discover that sector. Same thing with NFTs. Like people are aping in with their net worth in NFTs. I think you're absolutely insane. We have enough volatility being all in crypto broadly. So within these like subsets of the industry, especially as they're nascent, the upside is so extreme with a smaller percentage of your portfolio. Like I just don't think you rely on salaries, and I don't think you go all in on like one piece of crap, because the worst thing that you could do is you're all in on crypto, but then somebody's like, holy crap, like ETH went from $500 to $5,000 or something. You must have crushed it. And you're like, Well, actually, I was all in on tendies, and I'm poor. Like that's a terrible feeling. So, don't be right on the major trend, but be so all in on the minor trend that you end up getting wrecked anyway. And yeah,
Go ahead.
I think it could depend too, right? Like where your skill set is. Like a lot of people who crushed it in DeFi summer kind of got left in the dust during the NFT trend. And a lot of people who really were not doing great in crypto were early to NFTs and that became their thing and they made it through that. So like talking to like, again, a lot of interns on here. Like if you can specialize in one thing that you think is going to emerge and then you get really good at it and you're one of the guys who like you kind of know who the other idiots in the room are and like you're trading on that, it's a good way to play it. Again, don't go 100% into NFTs unless you're on Flip, but like it's a real thing. Like specialize where you're good and then you can make it through there and then you can start kind of buying dirt and trailers and a house maybe and kind of go from there. So like
Ledger, do you have any, so from like last year maybe and before, I'd be interested, do you have any like standout trades or investments for NFTs as well? Because luckily you buy NFTs, not everyone does. So do you have like standout NFTs and crypto trades, good and bad?
Is this an attempt to get me to talk about fluffs?
I forgot about that.
Actually, I'll drop a little bit here. I found out about fluffs from Kobe. Because he was like seeing some of these mints that were hot and he was like, what is this? But I was like, what is this? Like 3D NFTs that move and have music. Like, okay, they're very strange little bunnies, but I'm minting this. And so I minted fluffs. And then like when I saw it, I was like, nobody else is doing anything quite like this at the time. They're all like 2D JPEGs that don't do anything. And, I was like, this is interesting. So in addition to minting, I bought a whole bunch within the first couple days, including a couple of rare ones. And then honestly, Kobe and other people made fun of me so much. I was like, I'm just going to stand for this, like I'm in, baby, let's go. And it ended up being a great trade. Like, still have some fluffs, but took the W's as well along the way. Those are a good one. ENS has been actually a fun one. I haven't really taken a lot of profit, but my ENS portfolio I'm quite proud of and have some upside there. I've liked the ones where like they actually last long enough to where you can hit long-term capital gains and you're not just like flipping NFTs in and out of each other short term. But yeah, there's some other stuff too. I sold a freaking honorary. Keyboard Monkey hates this so much. I got an honorary Bored Ape and he didn't. And then I sold mine to Kevin Rose, who then turned around and both sold my honorary ape for a loss and then started Moonbirds. And then the person that he sold it to sold it for like 140 ETH profit, like 2 days or something, 2 weeks. I don't know. So yeah, that was like actually a nice little win, but that was an honorary, but I made some decent money in flipping JPEGs myself as well. And honestly learning, and I was late, right? Like I was like, holy crap, D's, how did you get these chromie squiggles for literally nothing? And, punks for 5 ETH and you've got like 10 Fidenzas. I'm so envious. But if I just let that say like, oh, I'm late, I'm out, then I would have missed a lot of fun stuff in the NFT market. Bought the Pico Top art blocks, but I like the art, so I'll cope that way. So I had some good ones, like several good ones, but like Fluffs is the funniest story, so that's one I'll stick with. And yeah, from an NFT perspective, that'd be my favorite. In the other side of things, I did really, really well on DeFi in 2020. And then also I timed 2 trades really well. One was flipping from DeFi to Bitcoin in the fall of 2020. So made a lot of money on DeFi for me, like relative to what I had previously. And then I rotated almost everything to Bitcoin in like September when it was breaking out from like, there was this 9 to 10,000 consolidation. And I was like, if this gets above 10K, it's going to all time highs. It's not going to stop at 20K. It's going to all time highs. And I just rode it until the end of the year. I was like, I'm not selling this until January 1st, but alts are about to freaking moon because everybody just made a bunch of money in Bitcoin. Bitcoin went to like 30, 33K. And I was like, I was tax standing again. And I was like, my whole narrative is tax based in this industry. People are they're gonna buy Doge and all this crap on January 1st because January 1st they can delay the taxes for another year, and they're gonna ape all kinds of crap with all these newfound riches that they've made in Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin went to 42K or something over the next couple of weeks in January, but January 1, like literally midnight, like Doge starts pumping and all this stuff starts going, and like I just went super hard into DeFi early January. And rode it until, and I've talked about this on UpOnly some, February 9th. I very specifically remember my net worth peaking for a long time because I was like, DeFi's still got another leg, baby. And it was like dead as a doorknob. You know, it was like, I should have been making the rotate. I wanted to buy Helium. I wanted to buy like Solana. I wanted to buy the layer 1 trade. Didn't make it. I was like, nope, my DeFi baby's got another leg, you know. My favorite coins go into $1,000. It's like, and it's at like 750, 800, you know, like that kind of thing. I'm like, no, there's 20% more. I lost half my portfolio value at the same time. The trades I wanted to go into like 5x. So that's like a 10x differential on my net worth. And I was coping hard, like life-changing month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. But then like February through April or something, when I'm sitting there wrong and coping about it, and I'm like, I got to make a change. Like, I just have to make it. Like, you have to freaking realize you're wrong. I should have done it in 2 weeks or 2 days, not 2 months. And I did. And then I was like, let's go restart. And then that allowed me actually to do okay through that downturn that we had in June or whatever, when everybody thought it was over and all this. And I came out of that really, really strong. And the whole Avalanche ecosystem and all the kind of like hop from this layer 1 to that layer 1 to all the things built on those layer 1s. That was just a really great time for me from a like, just don't have to believe in it, just have to believe it's going up type of thing. But also kind of keep in mind, like, I'm denominating in ETH. I want to do well relative to ETH and try to secure the bag. And honestly was really thankful for how things went all the way through the end of the year. So yeah, like that, just from a timing perspective, that was kind of what my path was over the past couple of years.
Did you have like any guests on UpOnly that like gave you some really like actionable alpha? You know, when BitLord was shilling Doge, did you buy any of that?
I thought BitLord was an idiot. I was like, I actually thought Doge was going to moon, but that was in February. My thesis, here's what I was actually doing. I was taking profit. I was taking some smaller margin trades on Kraken at the time, because Americans couldn't really trade margin in many places, and FTX US didn't have any liquidity yet. And anyway, so I was taking some smaller margin trades on Kraken because that's where I could do it, to give myself 100% Bitcoin exposure, even though I was starting to do some stuff on chain with DeFi to try to like get into some positioning. And I was like, all right, when I make profit on Kraken, they pay it in USD. I was like, when I make profit, I'm going to buy Doge with it. And I was doing that in like November and December and positioning myself to say, like, let's do this. And then I was like, on January 1st, I'm going to sell Bitcoin and buy Doge. Well, I didn't do it because I was traveling. And on January 1st, Doge went up like 70 or 80% while I was in the car, and I was coping so hard. I was like, no, I was right. I was going to double my money in 24 hours. I would have nailed it. And so then I was like, no Doge, not touching it. It already did the move. And then Doge went to, I mean, that was all like half a penny Doge, and it went to 70 cents. And then I couldn't have coped any harder, basically, because I was like, this is the easiest trade in the world. I was all on it. Elon Musk was shilling it. This is the dumbest thing ever for me of not to have participated in it. So yeah, I missed the Doge trade, unfortunately, but I did have a lot of confidence that it was a good trade.
Mm-hmm. Do you have like a period as well in crypto that you feel was like the most fun? So I remember last summer, when like Rookie was really prevalent on Twitter, and like he was buying NFTs and they'd go up like as soon as he bought them, and it was just crazy. Like I remember I would buy NFTs and like the next day would 2x for no reason. I feel like that was the most fun time for me. But do you have like some period? Was it crypto, like DeFi summer, rather than NFTs?
Yeah, I think DeFi summer, because with NFTs, I already was sold with the on-chain stuff. Like I was, and when we started Flip, like I was like, okay, this on-chain stuff is awesome. Let's go, me and Sam and Jennifer, let's go do nerdy on-chain stuff. This sounds great. It wasn't necessarily like DeFi NFTs, like which route is the best to go. We ended up seeing kind of a market route for NFTs, but I was already with on-chain stuff. I was like, this is amazing, you can do stuff on-chain. So the most transformative thing for me and the most fun was when I was like, wait, I don't have to like buy and sell coins on just whatever's listed on FTX, Coinbase, Crack, whatever, those places. I can literally ape any contract I want, or things that are just out there, because Uniswap changed the game and it puts stuff on chain. And like I retaught myself all of crypto basically. And I saw many of my peers, and some of them did really well, like Maine, for instance, when we were having a panel last week. He basically did nothing on chain, but he was really good at derivatives trading and that kind of stuff. And I was more of a swing trader with spot, but by the time something hits Coinbase, like you're the liquidity, dude. Like, so getting the long only trade is much harder in that scenario. And I was like, wait, these coins are launching on chain. It's so much more fair and equal and all this. And you're not someone else's liquidity. You have an opportunity to trade. No one was charting it, and I found a way to chart it. And I was like, this is the most like emotionally driven base level of charting. This is when charts are gold. And so it's like, ooh, ascending triangle, equal highs, higher lows. Like this is going to break out and go. And because you realize, no, not enough people are just charting. it's momentum and it's emotion and it's raw psychology. And I was like, I look at a chart and I see, consolidation pattern, number go up soon. You like ape it, number go up. It was so fun. And I was like, I was just having a blast, It was like everything new again, trying to find tools. Nothing was on TradingView. So you're on like, ape powwow, 27.com trying to chart stuff at this ridiculous ecosystem. And then as it matured, everything got harder, right? But for a while there, when it's so immature, it's super fun.
It was Ledger's Edge.
It was for a hot second.
Kevin, do you have like a time that you found like the most fun in crypto or NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like unquestionable, it was Solana NFTs. Like July and August of last year, whenever the Degen Ape, so Degen Ape mint was August like 12th and 13th. I remember it vividly because it was my soon-to-be girlfriend's birthday. I was actually in this office, like it was her birthday, trying to get my Degen Ape mint. It like failed for like 2 hours. She's like, I'm missing her to the dinner with her parents, like everything. And then they're like, we're actually going to do it tomorrow.
I remember you.
I was like, I've never been so down bad. And I was like, I'm trying to date this girl. Like these apes are not minting. And then I literally
and then they
delayed
it.
2 hours. I walked down and I was like, she's like, did you at least get the ape? I was like, they delayed it. I didn't even get one. And then like had to skip the event the next night. So like long story, but eventually did get some apes when they minted. And Solana was around like 30 or 40 bucks. And the apes were like the first kind of big NFT, or at least the one that everyone knew about. And they mooned. They went from like 10 SOL or 12 SOL floor to like 100 SOL floor. And Solana during this period went from like 30 bucks to like 150. So everyone's getting like crazy returns. And then just like once people saw that and it was so easy to mint, there's really no gas on Solana, just a million projects started launching and like it got so fast. And for it, like I wasn't an intern at this point for CMS, but the guys were like, we need a calendar of every Solana mint going on. So I like had to have each mint, every link, and we were just minting every project for so long. And it lasted like 2 or 3 months of just like Solana going up like no one has ever seen, NFTs popping off, like roofing for no reason. I think that's the most fun. Like you read the investing books and you're young and you're like, Warren Buffett gets like 18% every year. You're like, this guy's a genius. And then you're like 150xing in like a week. You're like, I don't know, dude. I don't think he's onto it. Like, we might be the ones.
And that's the moment when you realize again, Warren Buffett's a genius.
Yeah. And then 3 months later, I'm like, this guy knew. No, but like, I think that's so fun. Like, when a new ecosystem emerges and like a community emerges there and like numbers just go up and like everyone is hyped. Like, friends, I would say Solana NFTs more than anything else all time in crypto got all of my like normie friends into crypto. Like, I had maybe 4 guys I went to high school with who like crypto and were into it. And then by like November, like, we had a group chat with friends from home and it was like 35 people and everyone was like, this is the drop. Like, this influencer's backing it. So like, I don't know. I think that like the early ecosystem stuff and just like having fun with your friends, like, unbeatable, especially if everyone's making money too. Like, some of these, like, my friends haven't been in crypto for a long time, right? So they just graduated college, they like got a job, they don't have a lot of money. And I remember vividly, my one buddy missed the Degen 8 min, and like, we were all like talking about him, and he went and spent like $6,000, which is like a ton of money for him at this time, on a McDonald's Degen 8. And he's like, what do you think, dude? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Oh my
and
God.
I had to support him. I was like, dude, that's an awesome ape. Like, that's gonna be great. And then he flipped it like a month later and made like 60 or 70 grand or something.
What?
And
Wow.
he was like, dude, like, I can't thank you enough. Like, I'm pumped. He's been in crypto ever since. Like, that's a lot of people, like, once they hit their first big win, they're like, I love this space. And then
I thought for definite
how about
you
yourself,
were gonna
Alex?
say. Yeah, like last year, like I said, with all the art blocks things, I think was the best for me. But for there, I thought you were definitely gonna say like he bought that McDonald's one and it went straight to 0. I did not expect
It was
you to
better
say-
times then. It was better times.
Yeah, stuff went up.
60
People
grand.
forget stuff goes up in crypto. It's like,
Yeah.
it's really fun when stuff is mooning.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that Solana NFT like craziness. It was all like Salamas as well. I remember Pentoshi bought some like geckos or something. I think I was just like coping, thinking like, oh, this is stupid at the time. I just completely missed Solana NFTs. But I've heard a lot of people say like they made most of their money there as well. I want to ask like both of you as well on your perspectives of the market now. But firstly, Ledger, do you have like, and actually Kevin, do you both have an end goal in crypto? And is it like an end goal in terms of just financial stability as well? Or is it an end goal in crypto that like you'll want to really like lower your exposure or just completely leave altogether? So yeah, Ledger, what is your point where you feel like you can cut this down?
There's no way I can completely leave. I think that crypto will probably be able to offer like high beta exposure to risk on markets and be kind of at the apex of the technology sector for like another decade. So why wouldn't I participate in that? Especially when I have the edge of being involved. And I say the edge because literally everybody in the market right now is going to have that edge the next time the market does something. And because I survived, like I didn't thrive, but I survived through 2017, it allowed me to be able to act quickly in 2020 when things were clearly turned. And then I'll want to do that again. I will never be all in crypto again, though, like not in the same sense. And that was purely because I made just enough money to be able to do well, like to secure some things in real life that were important, right? Like you want to, if you have debt, you want to pay off your debt, or if you want to, like, if you have an opportunity for an asset that can help you long term, then you might want to do that. So I won't be all in again, but my exposure to crypto will probably vastly outsize my exposure to legacy markets for the foreseeable future. And I think that I want to be invested in crypto, like hopefully like as an angel or something in projects that I really believe in. And then I'm a big believer in Ethereum and the Ethereum ecosystem, and I want to stay invested in it.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's a little bit different, right? Because Ledger's like diversifying, like setting up his family, right? Like yourself and I, right? Like we're a lot younger, so like it's hard to say where we're gonna be in 2 years, much less 5. But I would like my best guess right now, like crypto, I'm in it for the tech, right? Like that meme, that's myself. Like I love it for that reason. That's why I started loving it in 2017. I'm like, this can actually change the world. It will become more relevant. So like crypto for that reason, that's like why I'm super interested. I love learning about it. Right now, my full-time role is ventures at CMS. So like getting as good at that job as I can and like trying to provide as much value for CMS is like where my vision is now. It's like what I want to be doing, right? Like I love the culture here. The company's great and I get a lot of freedom to do a bunch of stuff. So like I don't see that changing, right? I would say kind of trends that I look for though, like I do think that this stuff is going to be relevant. Like I think in the next 10 years, definitely in the next 20, but within the next 10 years, like we're going to see some crazy shifts in the way that like we as people interact with technology. Like this whole metaverse stuff, like it kind of hit the bubble and fell down. Like there's a lot of stuff that's gonna happen that people won't see. So like just staying on the cutting edge of all of this tech and like trying to be informed and like be early to ideas that I truly believe in. A lot of them right now are around crypto, but like that probably won't change. But I think crypto will be like the foundation for how a lot of this stuff gets built. So I would say like as of right now, my vision is basically like stay on the cutting edge of like all of this new stuff, watch it grow, like try to be early and understand it more than the masses. And like there's going to be trades within the next 5 years that are like getting into Bitcoin in like 2012, right? Like there's world changing stuff getting, like if you think crypto is the only world changing tech getting built in the next 10 years, like you got to look more into, like there's going to be a lot of stuff like that. So I think a lot of our opportunity will be in kind of these new emerging tech fields. I think crypto is going to play a big role in it, but like just trying to stay as sharp and on that edge as possible is kind of my goal. And then wherever it flows career wise, like that's what I'll follow. But
it seems like crypto is moving from experimentation to implementation, right? Like you got to see it become real. And it'd be a shame to be here for all the experimentation where there's a lot of failure and miss the implementation where you see like consumer apps and entire professions being changed by crypto.
I feel like for me as well, I used to be someone who was like, I love the space, and I think like you, I really like the tech, and I feel like it will be here. I think there was a point where I was just like super in it for the money, and I think it actually changes like once you work in this space as well, because it happened to me where I'm like, I feel like me working in the space is actually the exposure that I kind of feel like I need to have anyway. So I've become a lot more in terms of just like not having to invest money necessarily, because I feel like I'm investing time into it. And I feel like like you said, in the future, I feel like we'll get these big opportunities again. So you just kind of have to be patient for them. Did you have a time, I think probably more for you, Kevin, where you felt like you were just like all in crypto in terms of money? And then has that kind of changed now in the same way? Whereas like you don't need to put all your money into it because you're working in the space anyway?
Yeah, that's probably the largest change in terms of like balancing a portfolio that I've had to do my whole life. I was full in more than 100% in crypto. I joined CMS November of 2020. Within 1 week, I was like, guys, is there a way that I can like trade on leverage? I'm US, like how can I do this? So they introed me to Kraken. So similar path to Ledger. And like I thought about it for so long, like I still have like written on paper the models of how I was going to price, and like basically went like 200x long my net worth on Bitcoin and ETH in December of 2020, and rode it for like 2 months, which turned out to be like a phenomenal trade. So like from there, like I traded around. I got rugged super hard by Kraken when their price spots. I was kind of loud about that, which I probably shouldn't have been. But like basically ETH traded at $800 on their platform. The index price was like 15 or 1600. So lost a ton there, but like traded around. Most of my PA was in crypto. but then kind of realized like at the end of last year, that like I kind of just from working on the venture side at CMS, right? Like my pay increases if crypto goes up. All of my networks become more valuable if the network is more valuable. So like I have a lot of career upside to crypto, which I think probably outweighs any actual financial positioning that I can do with my own money now. So in terms of my own portfolio, I do have a large slug of ETH just because I love the merge. So like that kind of goes against what I'm saying. But like in terms of where I keep my actual money, a lot of it isn't in crypto because I don't want to like have one single point of failure, right? Like bet it all on something, but then like now I kind of have like if you work in crypto, you almost have like a call option on crypto built into your profession. So I don't want if crypto goes down and we're all wrong, right? Like I don't want to see it all go away. So I keep a lot of my own money, like either in cash or just like outside of the crypto space. So like that was probably the largest change for myself.
Yeah, I feel like I'm exactly the same actually. So it's probably similar for like most people working in this space as well. I'm conscious that we've only got like supposed to have like 5 minutes, but I want to ask you so we can go over. Ledger, what is your take on the market at the moment? How long do you feel like this goes on for?
Sure. And you said less relevant to me, but I was absolutely turbo all in all last year. Like all
really?
in, like legit everything. Yeah, way all in. Not 200x my net worth. That's impressive. But
200%, 200%.
Oh, 200%.
Oh,
I think 200x. I was like, wow.
No.
How'd you manage? How much did you borrow from Dan? Dan, can I borrow 200 times my work? Anyway, in terms of the market now, I think you just got to be patient. Like what we saw before is you don't have to buy the Pico bottom to see tremendous upside. Everything we just talked about where we had the most upside was halfway or further into the bull market. You can lose a lot if you're trying to buy the Pico bottom, but when the tide has shifted, like you can wait until you see the tide rising. Honestly, like you have time to be patient. And if you think like, oh, that's the bottom, but then like it keeps falling, like you just have that much more to make up on the other side versus what the opportunity you have with capital preservation. That's not to say necessarily be all out, but if you have no buying power, like if you denominate in ETH, then you could be all in ETH and still stay in the market. You have to realize you're all in ETH from a dollar basis. So you'll find out in your heart and your head, do you actually denominate in ETH or Bitcoin, right? Like if sats are sats, then stay in Bitcoin and then find your upside later. If you're like me and you tend to denominate in USD, whether you want to or not, like you need buying power. You need the opportunity to add to your positioning when the time is right. So for the way I see it is I can afford to be patient and also have some in like CMS intern Kevin, you're talking about like having a slug of ETH. Like I'd feel broken inside if I didn't have some ETH and then it like moons with the merge and I'm like, oh yeah, it was the merge. ETH is now deflationary. ETH is ultrasound money. I'm an idiot because I had no exposure. So like I'm similar. Like I've got some ETH exposure, but I feel like being all in, unless it's short-term, tight risk parameters, whatever, like you need buying power. You need to be in what cred calls a position of control. So my outlook on the market is try to have that. Like the Dixie's mooning. I talk about this stuff on technical podcasts all the time. So like just be cautious, be in a position of control.
Mm-hmm. I actually watched your streams on a Friday, right, on Twitch. I remember watching it, I think like a few months ago. And I remember at the time actually trying to like show STG, but STG was doing terrible. I think it was a funny situation, but yeah. And I remember like you looking at the S&P and everything, and it looked awful. And I remember myself looking at it at the time, and I was like, we are screwed here. And I think that was actually one of the podcasts that I watched when I was like, okay, I'm just going to sell everything here. It was like my final confirmation. But yeah, everything looked terrible. So I recommend that thing that you do each Friday or whatever on Twitch. It's really, really good. I learned a lot from that, and you kind of cover traditional finance stuff as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Kevin, quickly, what do you think about the current market?
Yeah, I'll stand by what I said on the first episode of Unsupervised. I mean, I just personally think that the bottom is probably in, at least for ETH. We're going to see, I think ETH, like if I'm telling like someone that I don't want to hurt to buy crypto, right? Like my father or like someone much older, I'd be like, just hold ETH. I think that's probably the narrative here. In general, like people tend to think very linearly, and the longer trend goes on, the longer you think it's going to go on. I don't think we see this world-ending crash that everyone's calling for. Just like personally, like market's been going down for 9 months. Like everyone's aware of it. People are saying like you're only wealthy if you own farmland now. Like I just don't think that's true. Like I personally think things tend to get a lot better as time goes on. Like productivity and efficiency increases with all these things. So like I'm optimistic, but I always kind of have an optimistic lens on where things are going. But that's like, that's my 1 minute.
Okay, yeah, and actually, Ledger, I almost completely forgot, but we're supposed to be giving away penguins. Yeah, so if I don't know the best way to do it. We're going to do a tweet in a second anyway, but I do have the winner. So if by chance the winner is listening, hang on a second. It is.
My Sybil attack on Flip worked.
Imagine it was one of us. It would be called so badly rigged. Okay, let me find it. Okay, so the winner on our competition it's called That's Mikkel. No space, no hyphen. So yeah, that person has won a Pudgy Penguin from Nansen. What about you, Ledger?
Yeah, I was hoping. I don't know if I'm gonna share. If I share a screen, if it will share my entire screen, and
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I'm tempted to. Okay, yeah, okay, it works. All right, so do you mind if I do this?
Yep.
All right, so this is Pudgy Penguin 951. We gave away one, and the guy like instantly embraced the Pudgy community, which was awesome.
Nice.
So this one is the other, and it's under LedgerStatus.eth right now, which Kaleo shamed me into buying these because I put them in my cart on Flip, and he was like, "You better transact it." So we decided to give it away. Pudgy Penguin 951. We did the drawing, and it actually goes to somebody that's deep in Pudgy Penguins, and was an early Flip user.
What? Wow.
Yeah. So it just happened to be that way. Tecmobo.eth, TECMOBO.eth. So after we get off, I will make the transfer to Tecmobo, and congratulations, second of 2 Pudgy Penguins. I'm happy to give it away here on the show. So
welcome to the huddle. That's what I was going to say. We're all in it, actually, all 3 of us, right? So yeah, well done to those guys. Like I said, we'll put a tweet out as well, in case you forget what I said, because I've forgotten as well. And yeah, thank you both for joining. It's been really, really amazing, and I was lucky to get Ledger on. And I owe it to you, Kevin, as well. Kevin helped me get Ledger on. And yeah, thank you so much for everyone for listening as well. Hopefully see you next week. Subscribe, turn notifications on. And yeah, that is it. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's okay.
Peace, guys.